Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the business and the Sillyville editions. These are recorded live Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on multiple different platforms. switchedtolinux.com/live is going to get you any given night, where and when we are streaming. You can head on over there. So today we're going to jump right on into the news. And first and foremost is this one out of Bitcoin out of Texas. This guy is claiming that Bitcoin farming saved the Texas energy grid during the latest cold snap. And I thought he was crazy, but now I believe him. Here's the tweet, because my browser doesn't allow me to load tweets embedded in articles these days. 2021, no miners in Texas. Texas hit record cold, grid destabilized, 246 recorded deaths. 2022, there were Bitcoin miners in Texas. There's record cold. The grid was stabilized, no recorded deaths. Very interesting. So there's some discussion going about what's going on. Now, what this article didn't have, basically what this argument is, and there's all these tweets down here not loading. I'm not going to load them all. It should work on your site for whatever reason. This is the one computer I can't get tweets to load inside the browser. I've tried a bunch of different things. Anyway, here's the TLDR of it, is that with the crypto mining going up, Texas has increased the capacity of the individual platforms. So basically this allowed the grid to have more basic power output. So when the power went down and things got much colder, what then ended up happening is those miners went offline, but then it had enough backup power to protect everybody else's electricity. So the increased power output on the regular, because of the Bitcoin miners, allowed fewer emergency circumstances when the cold snap actually happened. This isn't the cold snap that just happened. This is data from the last one from last year. And I do remember I was actually driving through Texas right on the very beginning of that. The snow was chasing me, and I end up on Freeport Beach, Texas, right when freezing rain was happening. I'm like, I'm staying here for a while. And I did. I just, turned on the heater, went back to sleep, because I got there like super early in the morning after driving most of the way through the night, to avoid the rain and the snow and, freezing rain and snow. But yeah, and I don't remember there being as big of issues in Texas last year as opposed to the year before, despite it did still freeze and get a lot of snow and things like that. So that was a very interesting take on that. Up next, we talked about the AV1 codex, which was put together by basically the Dirty Dozen again. Google and Amazon, basically a bunch of stream companies. We talked about the AV1 codex as being a good open source alternative to H.256, which anytime you're utilizing that still requires you to pay a licensing and royalty fees. So a bunch of Google, Netflix, Amazon, Intel, Microsoft, see the Dirty Dozen and a few others, they all get together to produce an open source video codec standard, AV1, which is, they're hoping that this is going to be able to give us streaming in 4K for the same bandwidth size that streaming in 1080p would give us on H.256. And we talked about that previously. This article is to illustrate that if you are using Handbrake for any of your video encoding, and this isn't just for, ripping DVDs, which you should probably not do in most places because it would probably be a violation of some copyright laws. But I use Handbrake to scale up or scale down videos for my YouTube channel here, and a lot of other little odds and ends. I've been doing on the Christian channel lately. I've been doing all of the production on OBS as I'm recording the videos, and then scaling it down to the proper size in Handbrake is what I've been doing over there. There was lots of cool uses. Well, Handbrake in the latest version now supports the AV1 codec. And so if you are looking to experiment with it and save on video size, and you are putting your videos on places where these codecs are being supported, you can go ahead and use Handbrake for doing this encoding and transcoding at this point in time. So thanks to the Dirty Dozen, I guess, for giving us a cool video codec, I guess. All right. Well, Meta and Alphabet are losing dominance over the U.S. digital markets ad, which is possibly, I don't know if this is a good thing, a bad thing. Are ads worse under non-Google and Mark? Of course, they're talking about the ones taking place now are Facebook is Meta. Amazon ads, of course, are big. Of course, I run several Amazon ads for my books, of course. And then we have, what else do we have? There's a few other companies that are starting. Of course, TikTok. Oh, that sounds glorious and legit. Running your ads on TikTok now. How wonderful. But because of Amazon and TikTok, and Microsoft, I've got Microsoft and even Apple's new ad network, because of these, they're really slicing into that market share for them. And what you can see here in the chart is I think Google is in pink, Meta is in blue, Amazon is in green, and the others are the various grays. You can see that they really peaked around the 2016 or so, and then they started to decline since then. And now Amazon is really becoming about as big as Meta, and Google is falling as well, that Amazon and others could easily overtake that. And this is a good thing in that there's multiple different places to run ads when we're talking about, promoting our different services and things that we are doing. And on to our last article, more developers are apparently using Linux now than Mac OS. So Mac OS used to be the #1 platform people would use for many forms of development, but according to latest polls and statistics, Linux is now representing 40% both for personal and professional use among the developers. Now, it hasn't really changed its market share as far as overall Linux desktop adoption, but what we're seeing is a dropping in development use by Mac OS and an increase in Linux, possibly because Mac OS is becoming harder to work with and more convoluted, whereas Linux is becoming more and more open and more available and on wider acceptability, and the fact that there are now many more companies pushing really high quality developers laptops. And then you have companies, organizations like Pop OS, or distros rather, System 76 would be the company that is developing distros specifically for development on really good hardware. And so people looking for a new computer, you can pay really good, you can pay about the same amount of money for a new Mac versus a System 76, but the System 76 computer is going to give you a lot better specs for what you have, and you're dealing with an open source platform that can do more things. So we're starting to see an increase in Linux desktop being propagated mostly by the developers of different applications. So I'll call on all you coders out there, what are you guys using? Well, there's our business. So with that, we do use affiliates. Today we're highlighting A2 Hosting. If you are in need of a hosting account, tlm.li/A2H. You can do dedicated servers. You can do managed VPS. You can do, don't ever do WordPress hosting. That's a scam. Shared hosting, $2.99 a month. And then there's some other services in there as well. So A2 Hosting does work really well. I use this for hosting all my client websites until I got too many of them. Then I had to self-host everything on Linode. But this is still a great company. I still recommend it to a lot of people, and a lot of people that I know are using it are still happy with it. tlm.li/A2H. And on to Sillyville. Just a couple articles here in Sillyville. And so first up is this is talking about the pork belly spending of the year 2022. Your taxes were actually used to see if Theranos could actually snap his fingers. Yes, folks. Yes, that really happened. We only spent like $100,000 on that, but some government agency funded some university project to determine if Thanos could actually snap his fingers and make a snapping sound with metal gloves. Here is a list of the other fun waste of 2022. We gave some Kofi economic injury disaster grants, $4.5 trillion, I think. Let's see. That's a million. That's 4.5. Yeah, that's 4.5 billion, I think. Using the Kofi relief funds to construct a foot spa, 140 million. Kofi relief funds to purchase luxury cars. Well, we spent 31.5 million on that. Isn't that great? Bunch of people got nice luxury cars with Kofi money. I mean, you had to isolate yourselves from, people. Wisconsin school used Kofi funds to build turf fields. Hey, at least it was something outside, but we spent $28 million in to get Department of Defense Afghanistan environment uniforms. They're camouflage uniforms. Okay. To quote George Carlin, you don't need, camouflage out there. You need bar grills and, car grills and storefronts on those things. If you want blend in camouflage. All right. We funded a 1.5 mile park in Austin, Texas, used for yoga and concerts. Isn't that great? Department of Defense. Why is that? $192,000 went to espresso machines. We paid $475. Is that the billion again? This is getting like mind-boggling amounts of money. $475 billion on interest payments alone. We maintained 77,000 empty federal buildings for $1.7 billion. We did basic education projects in the Jordan area. Great. You can read all this kind of stuff. I want to get to the bottom where we get into some of my favorites. Here's some of my favorites. We spent $3 million watching hamsters fight on steroids. We injected 6-month-old beagle puppies with cocaine. $2.3 million. $2.1 million went to encourage Ethiopians to wear shoes. We trained mice to binge drink alcohol. We studied the romance between parrots. And we studied the social life and collective intelligence of ants, and we used mice to study racial aggression. And we had a radio campaign telling drivers to stop at railroad crossings. And we verified that kids love their pets, and then we spent that $118,000 researching if Thanos could snap his fingers wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. So, guys, you need to vote all of those people. Everybody who voted for that recent spending bill, which is far more ridiculous than this, by the way, everybody who voted for it needs to be voted out. Like, vote them out as soon as you possibly can. Stop voting these morons in and expecting something to change. All right. iOS 16 had an exploit. Now, this has since been fixed. So you need iOS 16.1.2 or below, but you can now change all of your system fonts to Comic Sans. Isn't that awesome? You can do that. Pizza. If you're still watching, you got that iPhone and you don't have 16.1.2. If you haven't gone above that one, I expect to see videos with you putting Comic Sans on that iPhone. Come on, man. Come on. This is done with a system exploit, which has been fixed, but it will allow you to experiment with a lot of different fonts and things like that. So you can do all sorts of things. Of course, you reboot your phone and it all resets. So nothing permanent, but who wouldn't want an iPhone that has Comic Sans font or something else kind of like that? Well, and on to our final story in Sillyville. A surgery center in United Kingdom sends out cancer texts instead of a festive message. They basically sent out a message to everybody on their mailing list that was supposed to say Merry Christmas, but instead it said instead it actually went out and told everybody that they had terminal lung cancer. So everybody in this cancer clinic who was on their list basically gets this. Let's see. From the forwarded letters, CMP blank has asked for you to do a DS-115 for the above patient, diagnosis aggressive cancer metastasis. And then they did this other one here, which was send an error. I thought I had the actual tweet here. Maybe that was a different article I was looking at. But the original tweet, this article didn't have it. The original tweet, it went out to everybody on their list, which was 8,000 patients. 8,000 patients received a message basically saying they have terminal cancer instead of Merry Christmas. Yikes. Of course, nobody wanted to respond for a comment. So there you have it. This is a good reason to not give people your message. Do not consent to text messaging to communicate with anything official business. And finally, turn off notifications. Things like that. All right, well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have a Subscribe Star page, subscribestar.com/switched-to-linux. You can jump on over there and help support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.
Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.